Good morning, Thomas. How are you doing? This is not the
I
smartest
am
guys, building trust and authenticity. How do you do that? I see Tom. What's up, Tom?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. There's all kinds of snow in Pittsburgh. It might be the most snow that we've had in, I think, like 10, 12 years.
Really? It's that much, huh?
Yeah, I don't know that or that we just haven't been getting that much, but I know that I've had to shovel a couple times. I remember building an igloo with my kids years back and taking pictures of it out in the front yard where like they could both get in the igloo. And I think we're borderline where we could maybe igloo again.
Really?
Yeah. Now they're bigger kids, so I would need twice. 10 years later, I would need twice the room to build an igloo, but I think I could do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cameron's as tall or maybe even starting to edge you out in height, right?
Yeah, that's what people are saying. You're right.
Well, I'm going based on photographic evidence that I saw recently.
Well, then I got photographs that show. Don't tell. I got photographs that show it the other way. So,
Okay.
yeah. But now Liz would say, Liz, my wife would maybe agree with you. But I got enough photos to say that uh, he's skinny, so he looks taller. So that's what I got to
Well,
say.
okay, so fair enough, but he's very close to the same height as you anyway, right? I mean, that's fair to say. You're not going to argue with that, right?
Yeah, and I don't like to ever really like not have shoes on. So then people are like, "Well, take off your shoes and stuff like that." Well, I pretty much wear shoes all the time. So that's some authenticity for you. That's the opposite of authenticity. I always have shoes on. It gives me an extra inch. I feel better about myself with some Nikes on. What's up, Jason? What's up, Sir Babe? We're talking about building trust and authenticity today. Tom, you know what? Going right into that on building trust and authenticity. What do you think about, is there a line, or like is my truth and I can show up and share it at all times? Or is it like, well, easy, what the hell does that have to do with, like, I am in book publishing and inspiration and positivity and smiles, so I think if I just show up and I was like, this guy's a jerk and I want to fight him, that would be weird, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Here's the thing that I think often sort of gets forgotten about in this kind of discussion is, one, yeah, you're free to say whatever you like, but freedom of choice in what you say does not equate to freedom of consequence for what you say, right? So you're free to say whatever you want, but there's no guarantee that what you want to say will resonate with your audience, will be something that your audience agrees with, will be something that your audience won't push back on, right? So, like, you can be your authentic self all day long, and people will let you know what they think of it. And you can't be surprised or upset when they do, right? So, it's like that thing I talk about all the time. You guys have heard me say it, I don't know how many times in here, right? I know I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, right? And that's fine. I am fine with that. I am good with that. If somebody doesn't like what I have to say, right, or the way that I say it, or the values that I espouse, that's okay with me. I'm okay with that. So if you're going to be authentic, you have to be accepting of the idea that not everyone is going to agree with you, and people may push back, right? So I think, it's with that sort of grain of salt that you have to approach this, that if you want to be really authentic, if you want to be really honest about who you are, if you want to build trust through authenticity, then you have to accept and acknowledge that some people are not going to like what you have to say. And there could be potentially consequences for it, right? Freedom of speech is not freedom from consequence for that speech, right? Except when it specifically applies to legal consequence as imposed by the government, right? That's exactly what freedom of speech is. And people get confused about that all the time. But I love to see, I see all kinds of posts on social media, people talking about freedom of speech. And I'm like, there's no freedom of speech on social media. What are you talking about? Like, it's a privately held company. They can just turn you off if they want, right? That's that's the deal. It's not a public utility. People pushed to try to get things regulated as a public utility, tried to get Facebook regulated as a public utility, and they fought back. And now, just I think yesterday, Zuckerberg put out a video talking about how they're getting rid of content moderation on Facebook, right? They're getting rid of fact checking on Facebook. And they're going to actually follow the Twitter model that Elon imposed that has turned Twitter into a cesspool of hate and division. So, good luck there. But again, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. Legally, there's no recourse, and it doesn't impinge on your freedom of speech. But a lot of people don't really understand how that works. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to be authentic and you want to use authenticity to build trust, you have to be okay with the idea that not everyone is going to like what you have to say.
Tom, I agree. And in the world I try to live in, like people could say, oh, that motivation's corny, or being positive, you're fake and phony and it's bullshit and we don't like it. We don't want to hear it. We don't live in this Pollyanna world. And okay, I know every day's tough. A lot of people are going through a lot of things. I just refuse to add one more thing, dump one more thing on all these people that are going through all the shit. So that's the world I live in. If somebody says, well, this happened and this happened, yeah, we're not denying that those things happen. Well, let's talk about them and find the person that, untied the dog that was tied to that saved the dog that was tied to the pole in the flood. Let's talk about that rather than these negative parts of the hurricane or whatever it may be. Let's talk about the communities coming together. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, at the end of the day too, like my response to that would be, I mean, if positions were traded, if I was wearing or standing in your shoes, my response would be, I mean, okay, fine, but like name me a time when it's done harm for someone to basically give them a thumbs up and say everything's going to be okay. Right. There you go. Like,
Right
when has that been bad for someone?
I have a meme that I share. Like it says, nothing has ever been made better by the addition of negativity.
Yeah.
Like you said,
And conversely, nothing has ever been made worse by the addition of positivity. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, okay. Like, so maybe it's not like the thing that I see is like people sharing like these stories that are very clearly like, like Chat GPT, AI generated, like not factually accurate. They don't make sense. Like the video is like a bald eagle and they're talking about a seagull. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What are we even doing here? Like those kind of things sort of drive me a little bit nuts just because it's obvious that they're like the video, like doesn't match the text, right? And that bugs me because it's like it's just such an easy thing. It's like if you're talking about seagulls, show images of seagulls. There's tons of images. Like, why is there a bald eagle on the screen? What are we doing? Like, so that kind of like that's just me, like the detail of it and the accuracy of those kind of things drive me nuts. But at the end of the day, the message is like you can overcome things. There's opportunity up ahead. Like if you just keep moving forward, things can get better. Things will get better. Like, how are you gonna turn around and be like, that's a terrible message to send people? Like, okay, tell me that all day long, and then walk away. Like you can just go say whatever you want to say. Just don't say it in front of me because I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, don't rain on my parade. Don't try to bring me down. So, Jason, as you're building a brand, how do you stay authentic and how do you know? Does a brand start already knowing who you are or does that develop along the way? So how are you staying on course, Jason?
In principle, it starts where you are. Starts right with your thought of why did even the brand need to exist? What is it that you got that's interesting to other people, not just in your own head, but you can see there's evidence for one. Staying authentic. Remember what the objective you're trying to achieve. Is it going to get there any better by cheating along the way, by not being real, or honest. I mean, I can tell you that when you take the shortcuts, you're shortening your value. So do the best you can to stay within your lane, and knowing you is a one lane, and there's many lanes that are going to go run parallel and they're going to cross you. So just remember your lane and take it slow. It'll work better.
Right on, brother. Right on. Stay in your lane. It's a good point. How many people get out of their lane and it's so annoying, or you see them fluttering in that lane, right? You go do Tom in production world. We could just egg Tom on all day long. How often in production do people, as they scale up, come from some other world and think they're going to make a show or a commercial or whatever it is, and you're like, this is absolutely terrible and a detriment to the message and the client.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That does happen, right? There definitely are people who kind of go into or come into that industry without really a fleshed out understanding of how the industry works, what drives the industry, and whether like what makes sort of pitching a show or trying to get something off the ground successful, right? And a complete misunderstanding of the economics of the industry, right? I used to, when I worked in entertainment, when I worked in TV, I would meet people and, they would ask me what I do, and I would tell them I'm a television producer, and they would assume that I was loaded, right? They would just kind of assume that I was incredibly rich, right? And I was not, right? I knew nurses that made more money than I did, right? And as well they should make good livings, but I was not raking in millions of dollars a year by any stretch of the imagination. Like, it just wasn't a reality. But people thought I was. People made assumptions. So there's like a fundamental misunderstanding of the economics of the industry, how it works, what gets things off the ground, et cetera. That happens all the time. I think the thing for me that really drives me nuts is when somebody is out of their depth and they still try to portray themselves or present themselves as an expert, right? That kind of drives me nuts when you really don't know what you're talking about, and yet you insist on playing the role of an expert in that area. That sort of drives me nuts. But conversely, I would say, just because you're not an expert doesn't mean you're not entitled to an opinion, right? So you can have an opinion, and I'm very loath to use the stay in your lane, because it reminds me of the shut up and dribble kind of argument, right? Like, oh, you're a basketball player, what do you possibly know about X, Y, and Z? Well, I mean, just because somebody's a basketball player doesn't mean that is the sum total of their existence or knowledge, right, or experience in the world. So, I'm loath to kind of tell people to stay in your lane too much, because I think it's okay and good to sort of venture out, be curious, explore other things, and form opinions around them. But I think you should be honest about your expertise and your knowledge on a subject. So you can say, I don't know a lot about this, but it seems to me, blah, 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 blah. Great. People can say that all day long. If you come into something that you don't know a lot about, and it's clear to somebody who is an expert that you don't know a lot about it, and you start saying a bunch of stuff as if you're an expert, well, then you're probably going to get pulled up short and called to task on it. And I think that's okay too. So I don't know. I think, focus on your expertise. Yes. But I also don't want to be discouraging if somebody is curious about and wants to gain knowledge in a different area from their field of expertise. I think that's a good thing. So, I don't know. I'm kind of I'm on the fence about the stay in your lane argument. I think there are certain places where it can apply, but broadly speaking, it just makes me think of, and I'm not saying that this is what Jason was saying. This is what it makes me think of. It makes me think of, whenever I hear that phrasing, it makes me think of the shut up and dribble argument, which I think is a pretty terrible argument, and one that we should retire. Maybe put that argument on the bench to keep the metaphor going. the basketball
All right.
metaphor.
So you're not mad at anybody for growing. So that's where I would think it would come down to. You're just calling it a growth thing. If I want to get into something next and try to learn it and grow and begin, you're saying, go for it. Just, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think also, if you're going to do that, I just want to, this is something that I heard just yesterday that I was like, yes, agree 1,000%. And I kind of wish Dr. Tachi was here, because as somebody who has achieved a high level of education in a specific field, I think she would appreciate this. It was somebody talking about how they hear people all the time saying, well, I've done my research and I'm going to drink raw milk, or I've done my research and I'm not going to get vaccinations. And the thing is that at the end of the day, most likely those people have not actually done research. What they've done is they've gone on the internet and they've read people's opinions. And that's not what research is. Definitionally, that's not research, right? You are reading other people's opinions, but research on a subject matter involves reading and studying the scholarly work around that subject matter, and reading and studying the expertly led and factually backed information that's being put out. And so, if you're not doing that, then you're not doing research. If you're reading opinions, you're not doing research. So I'd be perfectly happy if people would stop throwing that one around, like, oh, I've done my research, and I'm going to drink raw milk. Well, I don't think you have done your research. I think you've read a bunch of opinions online that back up your idea that you want to drink raw milk. And so that's what you're doing, but you're not doing research. Like, just be honest with what you're doing.
All right, good stuff. Building trust and authenticity. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Hey, Brian P. Swift, David Sorave. David, put in the comments if you don't want to come up. When's your 500th episode? David started a podcast after coming into this room. We encouraged him. This guy had a message to share, and now he has a few of them, and one is called Living the Next Chapter, but he helps people from all over share their story. And so David's now on, after not pulling the trigger, he's now on 500 episodes. So congrats to you, my friend. And he has other shows and helps people set up shows. So good job. A lot of we always say we're not the smartest guys in the room, and we bring people like John and Brian and David in, and we learn from each of them. And hopefully that's some of the hopefully when you leave here, you can say, what Tom said about production was interesting, or what Jason said was interesting. So, okay, now talking authenticity, one of the realest dudes there is, John Jay. Does it hurt? Has it hurt along the way? Do you ever have to tone it down, or are you always toned down compared, like, would your wife say, oh, John's really calm compared to home? What do you got for us?
I've certainly toned down, and I've had people, program directors in radio. My wife, who's an invaluable resource and a good friend, in addition to being my better half romantically. When I get, I'm opinionated. I have opinions. I have my experience that I base my opinions off of. But I have to differentiate that when I'm doing a radio show, for example, a music radio show, my role is to augment the music and to provide information and entertain the listener. It's not about what I think. It really is not. When it comes to my radio, my radio talk radio show, which is syndicated, the podcast, social media, it is never about what I think. It's very rarely. I don't do politics. Partisan politics we don't discuss at all. It's really about the person, my guest experience, and if mine intersects and relates, and I will say sometimes, and that's from my experience, and I try to leave opinion out of it. So for me, authenticity, and this is what I was taught early on, is whether you are radio, and what I do is nonfiction. So know your role, what you're doing. What I do is nonfiction, is people's experiences. So for authenticity reasons, it's take what's truthfully you like you use music radio as an example. Trace was truthfully you. And you can exaggerate the bad parts, you can exaggerate the good parts, but always stay with the reality of what you are about. And it's okay to make your life more interesting. Where it is not okay for me personally, and from all these people I had, was when I try to tell people what they should think, what they should do. That's not good. And that's really getting that thing. I'm not a big fan of Sandy Lane, but whenever I do that, when I start with, you want to know what I think? My usual answer when people say it to me is, no, I don't. I don't care what you think. But when I try to tell people what they should think, I need to stay the hell in my lane and realize what it is I'm doing and what my goal is, what my role is. So that's authenticity for me.
John, that's good stuff all around, man. We appreciate it. And I would be almost, I see Dr. Tachi came in, so I would almost sign off. I want to sign off on everything John's saying there. Like, I don't mind somebody's opinion. That doesn't mean I have to accept it or consider it as fact. That's their opinion based on where they are today. And so I can think, I'm just reading Rick Rubin, The Creative Act. And one of the things he says, okay, when you're getting feedback, you get the feedback from the people, and then you realize, why did this person say that? Where were they at that they said that? And then does that make me think about something differently? So it just opens up my mind. And then just to another thing John said that I want to support is this idea of, if you are here to entertain. Speaking of which, we're going to do Tom's Thumbs soon, our new game. So we created a name for it, Tom's Thumbs, up or down. He has to choose. If you are here to entertain, well, then to John's point, then you might exaggerate this or exaggerate that to make sure that you are delivering on your goal of entertaining. Tom, you got thoughts on that before we get in? You said something about Dr. Tachi before. You wanted her to hear, so she's here now. If you want to repeat it. Hey, and speaking of which, we talked about jollof rice a couple last time. I did clip some jollof rice. It is hard to spell jollof rice, by the way, but I got it right most of the time. And people love jollof rice, Dr. Tachi. It's heated. So go on, Tom.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the one thing, like the caveat that I would add is, like, yeah, everybody's entitled to an opinion, right? Everyone's entitled to their own interpretation of things. The problem arises, you start to get into difficulty when people confuse or conflate opinions with factual information, right? The two are not the same, right? So I think there's an inherent issue there that a lot of people take opinions as fact. And at the end of the day, they're not, right? They're one person's interpretation of their understanding of a certain subject and a certain set of facts. But sometimes you're not even agreeing on the same set of facts, right? The same set of information to base your opinion on. So in order to have opinions and have a valuable debate on opinions, you have to actually first agree on a set of facts, right? That X, Y, and Z is truth. That is a set of facts. And now I interpret those to mean, A, you interpret those to mean B, and we can have a reasonable discourse and discussion and disagreement about our interpretations of an agreed upon set of facts. But you have to have an agreed upon set of facts to have a constructive, reasonable discourse between two people. If you can't agree on the set of facts, then you're just tilting at windmills, right? It's to no effect. It makes no difference. There's no import. So yeah.
Hey, hold on, Tom. Did you just say tilting at windmills? Tilting at windmills.
Tilting at windmills.
You think
I
that's
recognize the quote. I know the reference.
Oh, John Jay, what's it from? Because I don't want to hear it from Tom because it'll be long and
well,
drawn
it's not
out.
a cat suit quote. I'll just say that. It's from Don Quixote.
Oh wow, wow, that is pretty impressive, Tom.
Yeah, you've never heard that phrase, tilting in
No,
windmills? It's a
Where you
reference.
been? Oh, he's in Pittsburgh. That'll tell
Hey,
you.
speaking of which, I got my Russell Wilson shirt on today for anybody. Got this for Christmas from my son. And this is like the last 3 quarterback shirts I've got from Pittsburgh. They've all went awry. So, Tom, okay, where are we at today? Let everybody know what we're doing here.
Yeah. So welcome everybody. This is Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. As always, hosted by yours truly and Dom. So we're here on Clubhouse, obviously, but also streaming all over the internet. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we are on Twitch, and we're on TikTok as of right now as well. So we're streaming all over a bunch of different platforms on the internet. We used to also stream on Twitter before that became a whole rigmarole with you have to actually pay a subscription fee now to be able to stream there. And given its current state of affairs and the fact that it's a bit of a cesspool anyway, I'm not interested in paying for anything to do with Twitter's new iteration. I'm not even going to say the name because it's ridiculous and silly. So that's what we're doing here. Dr. Tachi, what I was talking about before was when I referenced you, Dom said I said something about Dr. Tachi. So I just want to clarify.
He's talking trash, Dr.
What I
Tachi.
said was I thought someone who has achieved a higher level of education or a high level of education would appreciate drawing the distinction between going on the internet and reading other people's opinions and doing research, which are not the same thing. And a lot of people tend to conflate those two things and confuse them and think reading some knucklehead's opinion on Reddit is the same as doing scholarly research, and the two are not even close to the same. And don't mean the same things. So when a lot of times when people say I've done my research, what they're really saying is I went into a subreddit, or I read a social media post, or I read a blog, and now I think I should drink raw milk. Silly things that don't make any sense, right? And just recently, just to be clear, pasteurization does not materially change the nutritional value of milk. There were just 2 kids hospitalized in California with bird flu as a result of drinking raw milk. So probably not the best idea. And if you do the real research, you would find out that actually there's no good evidence to support that opinion. So there's that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on raw milk. Down a little bit of a rabbit hole there too.
All right, okay. All right. So before we get to Tom's thumbs, let's hear from Brian Swift first. Brian Swift, you're an authentic dude. So building trust and authenticity. How do you show up as Brian and be you and know that and be comfortable being you?
Well, a lot like John, I think there's 2 ways of being authentic, of showing your authenticity. When you're on your show, like when John's doing the show, I agree with him. It's not about you, and it's about them, and that's what the show's got to be about. And you could still be authentic, but it's a different type of authentic. When I'm talking to you, Dom, or John, or Tom, or anybody, Julie, you're going to hear a different kind of person probably, because I'm honest. I'm very opinionated. I believe in, what I believe in, I'm passionate about. And Dom, you and I have disagreed on things, but I'm that guy that I'm okay. I can agree to disagree and sit down and have a beer. And disagreeing with somebody doesn't bother me, and it doesn't bother me if they disagree with me. I'm okay with that, because I think it should, and I hope it does, prompt maybe that deeper thought process into, am I thinking going down the right path, and opens up discussion as to why you think the way you think, which I once people stop talking, our world is in trouble. I mean, we have to be talking, we have to be sharing, and we have to be okay with agreeing to disagree. And probably a lot like John, I feel strong about my opinions. And a lot of times my facts are based on what I've lived and what I've seen and the realities around us. I think now more than ever, it's tough to trust. I mean, where do you go for real information anymore? Go back and look at a history book from 50 years ago, look at a history book from now. They're going to be different. There's different information in them. I think it's hard to find the right information now, especially if you don't go back. I think to Tom's point, you got to look at the right sources. You can't be out there quoting some of these sources that people just find on whatever social media they find. I mean, years ago, we all went to the same sources, right? You ripped out Encyclopedia Britannica. If anybody remembers them, you probably had them on your shelf. We got them from my grandma and aunt. We all had that. Anybody here who has that 24 sets of encyclopedias that you went to for information, for reports, or you went to the library, and you stood at the, sorting through the cards where you found real information. But I try to be real, I try to be me, and I think that creates I think people who know me know I'll be honest and maybe honest to a fault, and I'm all okay with that. Like that doesn't mean I'm right all the time either, though, and I'm okay with not being right.
I want to just jump in there for a second, Brian, if I could. Thank you for that. But one of the things that you just said, I want to hit on, and I just want to share a little tip, a little bit of information that may help people and may clear up a little bit of confusion, right? But you talked about how textbooks change over time, and that's 100% true. They do. Our understanding of history, our understanding of science is kind of constantly evolving, and things change over time, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, if you really want to find information, right, or find the best information that you can, because because you want to form an opinion based on a set of established facts, then my recommendation to you is to get in your car, hop on your bike, strap on your shoes, whatever it takes, get yourself down to the local library and have a conversation with one of the reference librarians or one of the librarians that works there. There's local libraries all over the US, right? All over Canada, for our friends up north, David, right? But there's local libraries everywhere. They're staffed by people who are experts in finding information and finding, here's the key term, primary sources. So that's what you want to do. If you want to really find out a set of facts around something, go to your local library, talk to the librarian, and ask them to help you find primary sources around the subject that you're interested in, right? And then you're doing research, right? That's research. Reading some knucklehead's opinion on Facebook ain't research. Sorry to break.
I agree, Tom. I agree, and it'd be interesting. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I was at the library, and used to go quite a bit for the reason you just said.
Yeah, we used to go weekly when I was a kid. My mom used to take us to the library every week. Every week we would swap out books. We would get new books. We would look things up. We would find, I mean, it was a whole thing. I'm actually really excited. It's one of the things that we're planning on doing with our daughter, Isla, is, the library is also a hub of community events. There's tons of events for kids at local libraries. So we're absolutely going to get involved at our local library and take Isla to a bunch of events there. And she can meet other kids her age. She can learn about how to do research, how to read, all that kind of good stuff. So Dom, you were jumping in. It looked like you had something to say too.
Yes, yeah. Jason says, why not go to the library now? Yeah, Jason,
Well,
you're
yeah,
right.
I mean,
Mom
for
should
in
go to the
Isla's
library
case, it's
now.
because she's
Mm.
almost 6 months old. She's 6 months old in 2 days, and she can't read or speak yet. So, we're going to start soon. She's actually going to start doing swim lessons soon. So, I
There you
mean,
go.
we're doing stuff, but it's a little early for the library yet.
We got a
Why
comment.
not? Why
we
are
got-
you waiting for a child and not really enriching for yourself?
Yeah, there you
Like,
go.
visiting the library is something I do not just for my kids, but I do go look for myself. I mean, I don't like paying for books all the time, but if there's one I'm looking for that I don't have to pay for, sure. I've got a few.
There you go. Library. We got another. Our friend Lori agrees with you on LinkedIn. She says, true, love it. I'm a library lover. Okay, let's see here. Somebody told me I need to read, Tom's friend Chris said I need to read a book when I didn't know the Don Quixote reference. Dr. Tachi agrees. We got to, by being authentic, we can build trust. Yeah, okay. Julie says, I'm really surprised Isla cannot read yet. Yes. Okay. We got all kinds of comments. Okay. Time for our game. This is the game today. The game is we try to egg Tom on one way or another and ask him a question. We could ask him a serious question. We could ask him a pop culture question, but a general question. He has to know about it and then see if Tom gives us thumbs up or thumbs down. He has to answer thumbs up or thumbs down at the end, but I got to frame this question in a way to get an answer out of him. So I found out recently when we were handing out lumps of coal at the end of the year, Tom doesn't like mowing grass. And he said that he was going to buy some like robot mower, a robot automated mower to cut his grass. So my question today in the new year, it's the wind is blowing, the snow's been coming down for days. When you look out your window at the snow in your driveway, do you like it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love in the winter when there's like a fresh blanket of snow on everything that it's that sort of, I think, what it reminds me of is it reminds me of and for anybody who lives in a part of the country or grew up in a part of the country where there is snow, right? Where we get snow regularly in the winter. So somewhere kind of in the northern part of the country where it's a regular occurrence. Or up in the mountains, wherever, but you know what I'm saying. If you live somewhere where you get snow regularly in the winter, where it's a normal occurrence, the fresh blanket of snow in the morning, right after a snow overnight, or the first morning when you see the snow, where it's a bluebird day, the sky is clear, the sun is shining, and there's snow kind of covering everything in a soft white blanket. To me, what like I think of where my brain goes when I see that is those mornings as a kid, waking up excited, right? Turning on the radio in the kitchen with my mom and listening to the school closure announcements, waiting, fingers crossed, toes crossed, eating my oatmeal on a cold winter's morning, just hoping that we were going to get a snow day so that I could spend the day outside with my friends, riding sleds and building forts in the snow and all of that kind of good stuff. So like that's the kind of feeling that it evokes in me. That sort of fresh covering of snow. It feels like, because it covers up kind of the ugliness of the fall, of the dieback, of the vegetation, of the browning of the environment that we go through in the Northeast. That sort of like where everything kind of, as it goes dormant, a lot of things sort of look dead, right? It looks a little scraggly and dead. The leaves have fallen. It's not pretty. So I love that dusting of snow, that covering of snow that just sort of lightens and brightens, creates a little bit of contrast, makes things look interesting again and pretty. It always, when I wake up to that and the sun's shining and there's snow on the ground, it always reminds me of those mornings, those winter mornings when I was a kid, waking up and turning on the radio in the kitchen, in the dimly lit kitchen, because it was early in the morning. It was before the sun was up, putting on the radio and listening to the radio station announce the local school closures, and just hoping against hope that we would get lucky, that my school would come up next, and we would get a snow day, and I would get the opportunity to spend time outside hanging out with my friends and sledding and having a good time playing in the fresh snow. So when I look out and I see snow on my driveway, do I like it? Absolutely. Do I want to shovel it? Not really.
That's two answers. Okay.
But do I like seeing snow? Absolutely. And if it's on my driveway, I am okay with it. So I will give a thumbs up. I'm also a skier. So I like seeing snow in the winter because it means I'm going to get to go do something that I also enjoy with friends, and that's skiing too. So yeah, I'm good with it. I like it.
Okay.
Snow on the driveway gets a thumbs up.
See, I framed this question wrong, because what I really wanted to know, does he like shoveling? How does he shovel his own driveway? Does he like shoveling his driveway? But I figured that was too obvious, and he wouldn't bite. But then he gave us this beautiful story with all this imagery, so it was almost like he rehearsed it. That was well done.
Well, so first of all, how dare you suggest I don't shovel my own driveway? And second of all, no, I'm just kidding. But second of all, I actually don't shovel my driveway. I plow it. Because I have kind of a wide, big gravel driveway. And so I have a UTV with a plow on it, one of those side-by-side things with a plow on it. And that's how I clear my driveway. Cause it would shoveling is, not great on a gravel driveway. It doesn't work super well. So that's how I clear my driveway, but I do it myself. I don't have anybody do it for me.
All right, well done. See, I did frame that question wrong, but who knew? Tom has a side-by-side. What a life. What they say, congratulations for all your success.
Well, I also live in a rural area, and we've got 35 acres of property. So it makes sense in context. It's not like I live in a suburban cul-de-sac and I've got like a souped up side-by-side sitting in my driveway that I throw in a trailer and go rip around in the woods on. Like it's a utility vehicle that I use on our property to great effect. So it's a tool. It's not a toy.
All right, before I get sidetracked again, because I'm really now I'm thinking about these golf carts with rims on it, and I want to know what people think about those when they see them driving around neighborhoods. But we'll skip that. Okay, and let's building trust and authenticity. Dr. Tachi, I trust you when I see your videos. I trust you when you stop through here. I trust you when I look at your content. I receive it as well. So how do you build that trust, and how do you make sure you don't break it with the next thing that you put out?
Good morning, everyone. Building trust and authenticity. For me, it starts with realizing I don't know everything, and that I actually have to go and research, as Tom was alluding to before. And so whenever it comes from academic training, right, where whenever you are trying to research something or prove something, and as far as you can prove something, you have a lit review of all the literature that talks about things that you're trying to prove, but also related things. So it shows that you've done the work, and other people have said the same thing. And upon repeated tries, they've found the same thing. So I know that's academic, but that's kind of where I get my thought process and training from. So to me, it carries into the rest of what I do. So whenever I'm trying to say something or show something, first of all, I don't say something unless I go to a number of sources and see agreement. Like, for example, when I often do these rest well when somebody passes away, a notable person passes away on my social media account. Do you think I'm the first person to do it when I first see in one publication? Nope. I wait for agreement amongst a number of publications before I say anything, because it's better to be right than first. That also comes from journalism. There's this whole thing of breaking news often, because news stations are run by advertising. So a lot of them, I shouldn't say a lot, many of them strive to be the first to break something. Okay, but what if you're wrong? And now you have to go back and clean it up. So I always wait before I say anything. I think that's where when you say you trust, that's where I try to glean my level of trust from. And then also to add to that, that this whole thing made me think about Chat GPT and generative AI, which I love. I love generative AI, but how some people may be letting AI write for them instead of writing things for themselves. So while I enjoy AI and I use it and it helps in terms of sparking ideas, etc., when it comes to writing, I found that it does not sound like me. Now you can train it to sound like you, but there's still something that's not quite there. So I always end up rewriting things anyway. So that for me is my authenticity shining through. When I'm writing things, it sounds like me. AI does not sound like me. You can train it to sound like you, but it will never be you. It will always have that level of inauthenticness, if that is the word. So hopefully all of this mishmash of information made sense. I rest.
I think it absolutely made sense, Dr. Tachi. And in fact, I just want to go back to your point, the thing you said earlier about it's better to be right than to be first. In support of that sentiment, I would encourage everyone to look up the quote, "Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated." If you are unfamiliar, look up that quote and you'll see just how badly people can get things wrong in a rush to be first rather than to be right. So 100% agree with that, Dr. Tachi. Just wanted to mention that the quote popped into my head as soon as you said it, and I was like, oh, I got to share that. I got to share that. So yeah, thanks very much for that knowledge. I appreciate it and couldn't agree more. What do you think, Dom?
I want to ask Dr. Tachi a question about this. Does your brand, or does a brand, Talex Media compared to Tom, or Motivation Champs compared to Dominick? I am not perfect. Dominick is not perfect. The brand it's pure and perfect. And I fall off my bike. I break my ribs. I fall when I'm skiing. So Dr. Tachi, does the brand have a different voice than you?
Oh, I love this. I love this because to me, it almost goes back. So let me answer it first. It can, but it's difficult because you, not that you are always the brand, but if you are the one that conceptualized the brand, it has aspects of you in it. You can't change the cook or the baker, right? And so this is why people get so upset when a brand does something wrong, or a person who owns a brand does something wrong. Is not the brand per se, because there are other people involved in it, but people are like, well, I'm boycotting this person because this person does X, Y, and Z. It was interesting because I was listening to a podcast or something where they were talking about the deplorable R. Kelly. Now, his brand as an individual, right, and as a musician, some people feel that he's an amazing musician. I think he's okay. However, his actions are so deplorable that it makes you not want to support the brand. So when you have a brand or you have art or any of that, your real life actions inform your music, inform your business acumen, inform the way you approach business, etc., etc. So I think it's difficult to separate the two, if that makes any sense, Dom.
Yes, it's running very close. So I agree with you, Dr. Tachi, but I do think, even like I was thinking about the writing too and how it sounds. If it is me personally, it could be a little lighter than the brand would be a little more professional and something like that. So,
Oh, I'm sorry
but no, I get that aspect of it too. So I was thinking of all those, but
Oh.
so go on.
Okay. Well, yes, no, definitely. When you're writing writing for yourself or you're speaking for yourself, it's going to sound different, obviously, than than writing for the brand or writing for your company. But you know what? I still think there's a little bit of founder that comes through in all of that. Even if it sounds different, even if you're using different terminology or words, if it's more casual when you speak than when you speak for the brand, there's still a little bit of founder in it, in my opinion.
Love it, and I agree. I agree. There always should be. So go on, Tom.
Yeah, so I think just to kind of add on to what Dr. Tachi is saying, and I'll keep this really brief. It's just something that popped into my head. Was authenticity, right? And making sure your behavior or the way you present yourself is contextually appropriate are not mutually exclusive, right? So you don't have to. I think that's something that people often mistake, and I'll just create a simple analogy here that'll help kind of people wrap their heads around what I'm talking about. The way you dress depends on the situation, right? Like right now, I'm sitting in my office. We're doing this show. I'm wearing a hoodie, right, and my hat. But if I was going to a friend of mine's wedding, right, I wouldn't be dressed in a hoodie and I wouldn't have my hat on. I'd be wearing a suit, right, because I'm going to a wedding. So the way you dress, the way you present yourself is dependent on the context in which you're presenting yourself. But in both cases, I'm the same person, right? That's authenticity. So I just want to be sure that people don't confuse, making sure that your behavior is contextually appropriate, right, with authenticity. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can adapt your behavior, the things you say, the way that you say them, to be appropriate for the context without undermining your authenticity. So just wanted to hit that point and make sure that was clear to
Hey, I
everyone.
got to add here, Tom. Dr. Tachi says in the comments, or you could put a suit on over your hoodie. That would be a good look for you, I think.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I have a suit that would fit over a hoodie. That would be a very ill-fitting suit. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe next week I'll show up with a blazer over my hoodie.
Do it. Why do weathermen wear so many layers? Okay, that's on TV. All right, now Tom, it's time. We got Julie, we got Violet, we got show and tell, we got to wrap up. We got a lot to do here, so you need to straighten things out, man.
Yeah. We got show and tell, and then we'll go quick to Julie and Violet for quick last thoughts on authenticity, and then we'll come around to a brief wrap up, and we'll call it a day.
Okay, part of the show and tell here that is I surround myself with things that make me smile, things that I like each of you, everybody that comes here, each of you make me smile. I'm glad you're here. John says funny things, Julie, Jason, when he kneels, Tom, love it. So I surround myself with things that I love. So it could be from the 80s, it could be from the 90s, childhood. So one of the coolest things, starting lineup figures. I got a lot of starting lineup figures that I surround myself with. And this one here is Darryl Strawberry that played for the Mets, later the Yankees. Darryl Strawberry lived a life. So he lived fast, he lived hard, he succeeded at a young age, and then had a redemption story at the end. So when I look at this young Darryl Strawberry, this starting lineup figure that I collected from a young age, I smile when I see it. Darryl Strawberry's career and his comeback makes me smile. So when I look at it, it makes me happy. And this is why I want to share Darryl with each of you. I noticed when I clip some of this stuff, Tom, the stuff's never right in the picture. So today I'm working harder to get Darryl Strawberry right in the picture. There you go. That's show and tell.
There you go. I like it. I mean, I remember when Darryl Strawberry was playing, right, for the Mets. And I also vividly remember, because it was very public, his downfall, his substance abuse problems, and his subsequent downfall and ostracization. I'm saying that wrong. Being ostracized from professional baseball. But yeah, quite a good redemption, great redemption story. Somebody who, stumbled and fell down, but picked himself back up and went on to be very successful afterwards. So really, I think I agree. Great story. Great story. There was a time when it seemed like it was not such a good story, did not have a happy ending, but then the redemption came, and there you go. So yeah, I like it. I like it. I also, the design on the packaging there reminded me of the starter jackets. You remember the starter jackets in the 90s?
Yeah, I had a generic one. This is full authenticity. My mom didn't let me have. I had one of the North Carolina one. I didn't have like a real one. It was like some off brand, and so I never had. I was so close to being cool, but just wasn't quite cool.
I think I got a real one, but I got it at like I can't remember if we got it at a thrift store or at TJ Maxx or something like that, like a store that sold like defected merchandise or something like that. But anyway, I didn't get one off the rack right away either. It was a long time waiting to have to get one, and even then, it was not great. But anyway, we've literally got like 3.5 minutes left, so we're gonna go quick to Julie and to Violet. So very quick, top of mind, number one thing about authenticity that you can share with everybody today, Julie. Go for it.
I hear the message loud and clear. Quick, 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 quick. So I think how I create authenticity and trust is doing for others and showing up for others, plus actively listening. Thank you. I'm done.
Awesome. Fantastic. I love it. Swift, clear, and to the point. Thank you very much, Julie. How about you, Violet? Top of mind, number one thing you want to share with the group about authenticity?
Well, I'll try to be quick too. I can be somewhat loquacious occasionally. I am new to this app. I've only been using it for like a week. I am also completely blind, just for reference. So I'm navigating this app with a screen reader. So if I'm a little slow on the uptake, responding to text conversations or anything like that, that's why. But no, I'm been a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 years, focusing more on my children. They're 11 and 14, and they're getting independent now. So I'm just exploring the world, and this is one of the most interesting chats I've found so far. So I've been enjoying listening to you guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, well, Violet, you are welcome here. I'm jumping in on this. Tom, back off. This is always a safe place, Violet, where we do let we ask everybody if they want to come up and share a tip or a thought on it, and we protect everybody so that nobody gets run over or anything like that. And we'll have disagreements in there. Disagreements are okay here. Sometimes we pick on each other. Sometimes we needle Tom. Tom wore a cat suit one time, so sometimes we talk about that a lot. And Tom doesn't like my iced coffee, so sometimes we talk about that. So Tom, cat suit and all, we haven't talked about that this new year. Why don't you wrap it up for us?
Yeah. Sometimes we needle Tom. Right. Sometimes, Violet, you should read between the lines. There is anytime Dom can, he tries to rile me up. And the whole cat suit thing is a reference to, and Violet's new here, so I'll explain to her. It's a reference to a triathlon suit that I wear when I'm racing, and sometimes when I'm doing some race-specific training for triathlons. It's a suit that I wear that is specific to the sport and for the work that I'm doing, and it has nothing to do with cats. He just calls it that because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So anyway, there we go. And Dom is sitting there laughing, going, "Mission accomplished. I got under Tom's skin." But yeah, so anyway, quick wrap up today. We've got like less than a minute left, so I'm going to try to wrap it up real fast. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys coming in, sharing your thoughts, sharing your opinions, laughing at me when Dom talks about what he calls a cat suit. So appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom. And the last thing I would just say is, at the end of the day, I think it's always better when you are you. It's easier to be you than it is to pretend to be something you're not. So be who you are, own who you are, try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Understand that adapting your behavior based on context is not undermining authenticity. Just so long as you're the same person underneath whatever the context is, you're good to go. So be authentic, be yourself, be the best version of yourself you can be every day when you get up. And I think you'll find a happier path ahead. So that's all I got for this week. We appreciate you guys very much for being here. As always, we love you guys. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room. You are. So thanks again for being here. We will see you guys next Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, right here on Clubhouse and streaming all over the internet. Until then, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And bye-bye now.